Good evening. This is Pastor Barbara, aka Preacher with Parrots. This is the 6th of December. I'm laughing because I looked at that 12:06 a little while ago and thought it was 6 minutes after 12. And that's not going to work. Hi, Sissy. Good to see you. I hope everything's out okay on the East Coast. Everything fine? And high praise. Were you guys my guests a while back? Sometimes, I have a feel for things like that. It's awful hard to fool me. My guest, I'm calling her Teta because that's Granny. And so far so good, trying to listen to the president speak on TV. I quit listening. When I stopped listening to him speak on TV? That was just before he went in, and Mr. Bush was giving his 4-minute goodbye speech. And I heard the present president say he didn't want to be bothered listening to that guy's going out speech, and he was looking for fast food. He was he got in the car and he drove around looking for hamburger or whatever. And I thought, this guy is going out. He's been president, a couple times, and we don't naturally love everything that all our presidents do, but after all, he held an important job, and this was his last speech. I normally don't, but it's in regards to ISIS and terror threats. Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. And you know what? I think we know more about it than he does. I think my guest does. But anyway, when people don't respect other people, my regulars know how I feel about that. And I felt that our outgoing president, any president going out has a lot of power. There's a lot of bad people that they can pardon. There's a lot of, in the last day or two, things that they can put in that would take the Congress months to undo. And this president didn't. And I'm glad I made that decision. You know what I am talking to my guests now. You know what I like about our former president? Whenever you see videos of our military and the president walks in, our former president gets cheers and hugs from the military. And our present president, he is the commander-in-chief. They are respectful, but there's no gratitude there. And I don't know, to my guest, Tata, did you know that my family has a friendship with the Bush family?
I think
yes, I have a cousin that played baseball, and baseball is a Shelton family thing. And one of my uncles was the Little League coach, or whatever you call him. And my cousin, one of them, is the same age as George W. Bush. And they were little kids. And I know this because my aunt, just before she passed away, after my uncle had passed away, went to visit a cousin. They were sitting down at the computer, and my cousin told her, you just pretend like it's a typewriter and, type. And she told me this story about how she met George G.W. Bush, and also Barbara Bush, because her son, George W., and my cousin were playing together, and my uncle was their coach. And to show their appreciation, they invited my aunt and uncle over. And my aunt had never had iced coffee, and Barbara Bush served her iced coffee. But there's just that, so we sort of know each other a little bit. Let's see. Oh, you're going to do something with the dog. I thought Dogwood was here when you said dog, and I was looking to see if he was here. Well, anyway, um, Theta is with me this evening. I want you all to, yeah, so it was the dog, it wasn't Dogwood, huh? Okay. Um, I hope those that are viewing the video of this will understand that I do have a live group. We're doing this in place of our um, Sunday evening message, which is always in the New Testament, which next week, Lord willing, will be back in the book of Hebrews, and we'll probably be in chapter 11, which is that great faith chapter. I want to introduce you to my guest. She's not going to be on camera, but you will hear her. And by the way, if you don't hear, and you don't hear well, this is what I want you to do. If you don't hear well, please type into me, I don't hear well. And then I want a second person to also type in. And the reason for that is if one person doesn't hear, that doesn't mean that nobody does. But if a second one doesn't, then I know, and she's holding a microphone, she can turn that on, and we can deal with it, because it's a little difficult to be on a microphone and not be on camera. By the way, Larry, by any chance, do you have your webcam? I'm wondering whether I should pull down the and put you all on camera or not. Larry, do you have your webcam? I need to see approximately how many we would have. I'm pretty sure that Sissy and Praise do. I'm just waiting to see what Larry tells me. I'll wait for a little bit. We can always do that. You're not going on? Okay. I always tell people, you know, you can put the camera on the bird or on the dogs or on something like that. You don't like it? Okay, not a problem. All right. At the time that I thought about inviting Teta to be my guest so that I can ask her questions, and also you can, it was before this thing happened in San Bernardino. And some of you know that I live in the San Bernardino Mountains in the San Bernardino Forest. And Teta doesn't know this, but I have told my friends that I can get to San Bernardino 2 ways. If I go out to 18 and jump off, I can free fall and be there in 1 mile. Because Lake Arrowhead, the lake, is 1 mile above sea level. The same as Mexico City. And I guess you know that we had people up here training when the Olympics were in Mexico City. People came here to train so that they would get used to being the mile high and the oxygen depletion that we have here, and get their bodies used to working in this type of altitude. Or we can drive down from my home, and it's 21 miles. There's 2 or 3 different roads, but it seems to be from my driveway down to 40th Street. It's 21 miles, regardless of which one of those roads I take. And of course, we had the incident on Wednesday. My guest is about 10 years younger than I am. So some of the things I want to ask her about being a Christian in a society in which I think I said, in fact, I know I said that it was mainly Muslim, and I think you corrected me on that. But I'll give you an opportunity in a minute to straighten me out on at what time of your life, what was the percentage of Muslim versus Christians. But I think I need to be corrected on that. I'm interested in how life was living, going to school with Muslims, being for at least part of the time growing up when there were as many or more Muslims as there were Christians, and some of the other things. Eventually, I'm going to ask you, how is it now on the people living where you grew up but are living there now. And of course, you're living here. And my guest is an American citizen, and I want to tell you, she's a very good American. You probably don't remember this, but one time you were over here, and um, I had some patriotic clothes out, red, white, and blue stuff for the dogs and for the birds, and I had a hat, and you asked if you could borrow it because she always serves on the. Now she's moved, I'm not sure, but at that time she served when people would go to vote. She was always down there, and of course those people try to be patriotic. She's a very good. I wish that she is an American citizen. She is not a Muslim. She is a Christian. She grew up with Muslims at some time of her life. The percentage was mainly Muslims. At other times in her life, it was more pretty much even, but she'll tell us stuff like that. I want to make one other comment before I start asking questions of her, and it's a comment that I have to make often when we talk about people from other countries. She was born and lived to be an adult in the Mideast, and then came to this country, had children, became a citizen, and as I said, she's a very good American. I wish all Americans I knew were as good citizens as she is an American citizen. You don't have to answer any question that I ask you or that anybody that you're not comfortable with it. She's not on camera because this isn't what she does. I'm on camera because this is what I do. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and it's not a problem for me. She came to this country. We were talking earlier today. I had been an evangelist for 5 or 6 years already. And the year after she came to this country, I started teaching in Bible colleges, teaching those that were going to be ministers, teaching people to be another me. Okay. I know you told me that when you went to school, and the reason was not because you were Christian, but because it was a public school, that Christians were asked, the women who wore crosses, to wear their crosses inside of their clothing and not on the outside of their clothing. Now, I said I wanted to explain something. When we're dealing with people that are from other countries, when we're dealing with people in this country and we talk about Christians, there's going to be some that are going to say, well, I don't consider that Catholic to be Christian, or I don't consider that Baptist to be a Christian, and we have our own personal feelings of what is a Christian. Of course, as a teacher of the Bible, I have a very specific, limited interpretation of what a Christian is, because I teach the Bible. So whatever the Bible describes as a Christian, that's what I teach. But I want you to know that with other people, that word may have different meanings. People ask me frequently, especially in Spanish, if I'm Christian or Catholic. Catholics, please consider themselves Christians. And as a matter of fact, they consider themselves the first and only true church that Jesus set up. So please remember, when we say Christians, we don't necessarily mean born again. When we're talking about people from other countries and when we're talking about other faiths, Christian may simply mean you're not a Muslim, you are not a Hindu, you are not a Buddhist, you are a Christian. And that is a very large field. And so for our conversation tonight, the word Christian, it may mean Catholic, it may mean Protestant, it may mean anybody who considers themselves a Christian is a Christian for our conversation tonight. We won't talk about what church, what denomination is or isn't a Christian. We only know that it's becoming harder, and there's a phrase, I guess, that some Muslims use. And we'll get to that later tonight, where are you a Muslim or are you dead? Something like that. All right, Theta, tell us what it was like when you were in elementary school. You were in a public school because private schools, there were Christian private schools, but they were expensive. And I grew up poor. I grew up in the Second World War. I grew up, 10, 11 years after you did. But tell us what it was like going to a public school where there were both Christians and Muslims in the same school, and what that was like. Later I'll ask you what it's like for kids living there and doing the same thing now. But go ahead, and you all let me know if you don't hear her well enough. Go ahead, Teta.
Okay, I actually had to go to public school, as Barbara said, because my father couldn't afford the Christian school. Of course, being a Christian, I would have rather go to Christian school because the majority of the students were all Christian. And but it didn't really matter because the public schools were good schools. The only thing is we were the minority. We were like out of 30, 35 in the classroom, maybe there were 7, 8 of us Christian. So it was kind of difficult.
So you were about 30%, 20%
yeah,
Christian?
20, 25%, something like that. Yeah. And
can you all hear okay? I need 2 people to answer me. Larry says yes. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So most of the teachers were Muslim, but we did have few also Christian. But because we were the majority all Muslim and we are the minority, we were asked not to wear our cross on the outside. I have no idea what was the reason for it.
That would be
yeah, we had to put it inside of our
cross on the inside of your clothing. Okay.
But when we go out in the streets or whatever, we can wear our cross, no problem at all. We always get along really well. There was some teacher who were a little difficult to deal with. They were Muslim and they taught the Quran, and we would not want to stay because they have 2 segments each week that they taught the Quran. And as Christian, we don't want to listen to the Quran. So we were allowed to either stay in or go out. So when we went out on Sunday, so we went to our church and came back after that period.
Did you have school 6, 7 days a week?
No, we had it 5 days a week. And we always off on Thursday noon, half a day, and Friday was off because that's the Muslim holiday.
So Muslim holiday starts at dark?
Kinda.
Like Jewish Sabbath begins when the sun goes down on Friday.
Yeah. But we gave us half a day on Thursday. We always went half a day on Thursday and Friday off all day.
Oh, you were off all day Friday?
Oh, yeah, off all day.
Oh,
and then
okay.
we went to school on Saturday and Sunday. So we could not get off on Sunday, but we were we were given a permission to go on Sunday for the period that the Muslim were teaching their Quran. So we went to our church and then came back. Of course, our teacher didn't like it, the one who taught that, so she was always giving
Now, let me ask you, did you go to an Orthodox church, or did you go, I know you went for a little while to Presbyterian church.
Well, we went to...
And also, let me ask you this question, too. Was the Presbyterian church in the Mideast? like the Presbyterian churches in the United States?
Very
Because I
similar.
know the Assemblies of God is one thing in one country and it's something else in another.
They were very similar.
Very similar.
Very similar, yeah. And we liked all of them. Being a Christian doesn't matter.
Okay.
And since there were 6, 7 of us Christian and one Catholic, one Protestant, Presbyterian, my mother was mostly, and my dad, Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox type.
Mhm.
And we went to that.
And that's very similar to Catholic here.
Same. And really,
And in fact, Pope Francis said something the other day about going to that part of the world, and he considered them and expected them to consider themselves Catholics for the time of his visit.
I see. Yeah, it all really the same. We all worship the same God. We believe in Jesus Christ. So to us, it didn't matter. So we always, in order for us Christian girls to be together, each Sunday we went to one of their church. So we kind of shared churches. So and it was great. We loved it and we enjoyed it.
Well, with my Christian friends, I didn't have Christian friends in school until the 7th grade because when we came to junior high, then all of the other schools emptied into one school, and we got to meet all the people, all the Christians. So, and then I had a couple of Baptists and Missionary Alliance and Salvation Army and Holiness and I know what you mean. That we went to different churches, but we had sleepovers at each other's house and things like that.
I see. That was not allowed back home.
Now in school and in other places, you told me earlier today that there was a difference in the way Muslims dressed from the way the Christians dressed. Would you describe that?
Well, in Muslim school, we all was asked, or not Muslim, it's public school, put it this way. We were all asked to wear a black, like a uniform, always black uniform, and black shoes, and a white collar on the.
Was it anything black?
Yeah.
Or a specific style?
Yeah, it's a specific style. We all had to match, and then the collar only white, but the rest of the outfit was always
You look
black.
like a bunch of little nuns.
Exactly. But if we went to other schools, we have a uniform in like navy blue. My brother, for instance, the youngest brother, he was lucky to be able a little later on in life when Dad had a little more money, so he was able to go to Christian school, and they were asked to wear navy blue pants and a white shirt with a stripe of navy and maybe a little red papillon or whatever you want to call it, you know. And it was a little different, but most of the students in those schools were all Christian.
Now the girls dressing.
Yeah.
At what age did the Muslims have to cover more of themselves? I know children, I see pictures of them even in mosques or maybe on the street in front of a mosque. And the children are not necessarily covered at least all that much. But then when they get to be teenagers is when do the Muslims have to start, the women have to start covering themselves up? It
depends on their religions, like because they were split into Shiite and...
Okay, now that you mentioned that, I made some notes here earlier. I was talking to my friend here of many, many, many years, and I thought there was one kind of Muslim.
No.
Now, I don't know. I mean, you know, we got all kinds of Christians. What made me think that there was just one kind of Muslim? But I know where I have the list. I thought I wrote it down. I brought it up on the computer, and because she was mentioning something, and I thought, what is this woman talking about? Let me bring up now. She started talking about. Here we go. Sunni Islam, 12 or Shia Islam, Alawites. This woman talks about Alawites like she knows what she's talking about. Ismailis, Druzes.
Yeah, there's many
Tell me about the Alawites and tell me about Alawites and that saying that they had and how he was more like Muhammad than others. Tell me what you were telling me earlier.
Well, I don't know if you know the history of Muhammad. Muhammad was the prophet at the beginning, and he ruled everybody. And
Is it true he couldn't read or write?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard that until recently.
Yeah,
See, I'm
yeah.
just...
He did not go to
Okay,
school.
I got a question here.
Okay.
Did they had to wear a hijab?
Yes, actually, not just the hijab. They used to have to wear, most women, as they grow up after maybe 14, 15, they all have to wear cover on their faces.
Okay, the hijab is
The
everything
scarf.
covered but the face.
Right. But
And then you were telling me that some of them had to wear not only the hijab. Am I saying it right?
yeah, yeah.
Not only that, but that some in school had to be covered.
Some.
The
It depends
veil,
on,
I guess that's called veiled.
It depends on what their parents, how strict they are. So some of them did. In fact, even some of our teachers was the veil on their faces until they walked into school, and then they pulled it off their faces. And mainly because we were public schools were all divided. Girls' schools separate from the boys. There's no boys and girls together.
So the school you went to had only girls.
Only girls.
And that's from the beginning of school until, let's say, graduate from high school?
Yeah.
All girls?
Yeah.
You never went to school with a boy?
No.
Never?
No.
Oh, boy, you don't know what you missed, girl.
I guess I did. Yeah. And the women, themselves on the streets, you just walk on the streets, you can tell the Christian from the Muslim. The Christian all wearing short sleeves.
Christians would be dressed similar to what I've got short sleeves, but I know in Bible school this was considered too short. They would like it a little longer, but aside from that, what I'm wearing now would be okay.
Yeah, we didn't. I wore even shorter sleeves than what you wore.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and we lived mostly, it seems like at the time I grew up there, it was kind of a split a little bit. There was one area, which is still, even to now, a lot of Muslims moved in there, but mostly was Christian at the time. And so if we stayed in that area, we were okay. If you go out a little bit, maybe towards where the Sunni Muslim particularly, then you don't dare wear something like this. You stay away from those areas. But otherwise...
This would be like maybe young teenage women not going into the projects or something by themselves to visit another girl there or something. Like that wasn't really safe.
But we lived mostly, because we lived in the area where mostly Christian, we didn't really have any problem with all I have lots and lots of Muslim girlfriends, and we loved each other. We've
got a question here.
Okay.
When those that the Muslims that covered themselves, I think I know your answer, but I'll ask the question anyway. It's a good question. Did they wear the hijab, and were they veiled out of obedience to God, or was it out of their own modesty that they didn't want to show their bodies, or was it their imam, their mosque? And was there more than one kind of mosque? If there was more than one kind of Muslim, did they have more than one kind of mosque?
I've never gone into the mosque. I think once.
I have.
Once I did when I was a little girl, up in the mountains, because my parents used to, we actually grew up in two different countries. I grew up in two different countries. My mother was Lebanese. My father was from Syria. So in Lebanon, when we were born and raised, my first two brothers and my oldest brother and me and one younger, we all lived in Lebanon for several years.
No, this is the brother that I know.
Ramon, yeah, that one. And he's the one. All three of us, we grew up there, and Lebanon was mostly Christian, more Christian than Muslim. And we went to Christian school, particularly with nuns and all that. So we grew up that way. And then when my parents moved to the Middle East, to Syria, and my dad for a job situation, and we found out a little more about there's more Muslim, and we had to deal with that and learn how to deal with it. And we always got along really well, very nicely. And it didn't matter whether you are Sunni, the Muslim. If they were Sunni, Shia, Alouette, whatever. But the Alouette was the most modern of all the rest of
They were
them.
the most modern.
Most modern. They weren't really strict. They didn't care. I mean, they came out with just maybe a little scarf on their heads and stuff like that. But the
Okay,
rest of them,
to get to the question,
hmm
those, I mean, you may not know,
hmm
but if you do know,
hmm
those that did cover themselves
hmm
more,
yeah,
did they do it as an individual? Because I grew up, I was born again just 3 weeks short of my 12th birthday.
hmm
Uh, but I started going to Sunday school at age 7. Uh, so everything I did because I wanted to. I picked the church I wanted to go to.
hmm
I wasn't sent to a church and then I had to do what they wanted. I I had my own convictions at age 8 and 10,
hmm
and at 14, I remember interviewing. I'm a very good interviewer, right?
yes, you are.
I remember interviewing a pastor to
Wow.
see if I decided I wanted to go to his church. And I
Uh-huh.
asked him doctrinal questions
hmm
at age 14.
Yeah.
So was it a personal thing, those that covered up? I think this is sort of the question. Uh, was it a personal thing because they were modest or they felt God wanted them to? Or was it because their parents made them? Or was it because the imam made them?
Yeah. I think there were
You're
a lot
nodding
of
at
them. Yes,
parents.
yes. A lot of them are the parents, and the parents. I think it's mostly the man. The man dominated the woman in the Muslim faith.
Okay, how about
Very.
how about in the Mid East among Christians? Do men tend to
No,
now
no.
I know my guest is a bit like I am. I can't imagine there's a man alive that's going to dominate this
No.
woman. As you
Uh-huh.
know, there's
Yeah,
nobody alive to go and dominate this one.
yeah. No.
Uh,
No, the woman was free to do whatever she wants. Not really, I mean, to a certain point, you know. And if she does something is not good, of course the man's going to say something.
so,
But in
so
their religion, they were asked to wear it, and the man dominate everything. So the woman has to obey her man, basically,
among the Muslims,
among the Muslims,
but
not
among the
Christians.
Christians, it was
No, it was open, you know, no problem, not at all. Yeah.
so. In other words, if Mama and Daddy wanted you to cover up it more and you didn't,
hmm
what wound up
You
happening?
have to get the consequences. You either beat up or whatever it is. You can't go out, and this is the way it is. Take it or leave it.
Okay.
You can get beat. You can do whatever.
Uh, let's see.
And I
I
have a
thought they
lot of.
had to
Don't get
cover
me wrong
everything
either.
except their
There was.
face and hands as a requirement or wish to adhere to a higher level of modesty. Sissy, are you talking about Muslims or Christians? Is your question about covering up, um, is that a question as to what she may have experienced about how Muslims feel? Muslims, okay. So she's
Yeah.
talking, her question had to do with Muslims. Because
Yeah.
obviously, you know a whole lot more about Muslims
They have to obey their
than
husbands,
those of us that
basically.
have spent all of our, I haven't spent all of my life, you know, there's not a continent I haven't preached on, I think
hmm
maybe except one.
hmm
But
Now there were a lot also a lot of Muslims didn't wear the hijab.
a lot of
A
Muslims
lot of
don't.
them didn't, you know, but it depends on who they belong. Like I have some friends in school, they never wore any of that stuff. You'd see us together, you never know which is Muslim, who's the Christian. But there was
So you could not tell among the girls in school,
some of them,
Muslims from
not all of
Christians.
them, some of them. I
Some.
mean, depending on who they follow, which one they
Okay, now
follow.
I want you
Alawite,
to
Druze,
tell my class here what you told me about you mentioned Alawites
hmm
and describe all Alawites, let's say, and their following of mine. In any way you want to tell us the difference
okay.
between these different kinds of Muslims.
Well, I guess when a bunch of the caliphates that followed Muhammad, some of them were, they're called caliphate, you know,
Caliphates.
Khalifa in Arabic.
Khalifa
Khalifa. You can't even,
Khalifa in Arabic,
yeah.
and
Those
Calawites.
no, these are the ones, all of them, they were different ones. Some of them went different directions from Muhammad, and they start teaching the way they want to do it. So the people, the
Now, if
Muslims
Muhammad
followed.
had had his druthers and everybody would have done what Muhammad wanted,
Exactly.
instead of pulling away,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be? What would life be?
There was some consequences, and there were war between them. I mean, there was war between them. But when Muhammad became a prophet and went into the Middle East, and in order to get people to follow him, he was on his horse. This is how we read our history. That was the history we learned in school, that he went on his horse with his sword, went into homes, whether they are Christian, Jews, Buddhists, whatever they are, and he asked them to become a Muslim. In a way, he said it in Arabic.
Say it. Go ahead and say it.
Aslam taslam, mean if you become a Muslim, then you're saved. But if you're not, he chopped their heads off.
Right then and there,
right
in their own house,
there.
with he had got a sword or a machete or whatever, and just chopped their heads off right there.
Well, you know what? If you look at the
who gave
Saudi
him?
Arabian.
Who does he feel gave him the authority to do this? God.
Oh, of course. That's how God told him to get on
what about the country? Did the laws of the country have anything to
no
do with whether he could chop off heads or not?
There were no laws in the country at that time.
There
Muhammad came in, he was everything.
Okay.
So people were scared of him. Some went and became, and some had. And
would you during this period of time, would you consider Muhammad similar to Nazism at the head of when that was big during World War II or before World War II?
I think it's before. Yeah, way before World War II. I think I don't remember the dates anymore, to be honest with you. I used to remember this because we studied that in the history in the school. And then when Muhammad was gone.
But I mean, nobody, as a matter of fact, the Catholic Church, the Vatican has apologized to the Germans for not, because Hitler was Catholic. And they didn't shape him up. I mean, they were not behind him, but they didn't stop him. And politically, because we're in our country, we're seeing things a whole lot different than what I grew up under. We've never seen anybody in politics or anybody that had any power in government behave on their own without consequences the way we are seeing it now. So my question was, Muhammad was able to chop off people's heads and there was no authority over him that said, hey, we don't do that here?
He was God to them.
To them, he was God.
To these people, I don't know if you see all the time when you look at televisions and they bring the Muslim religious. If you look at all these ISIS, you see the sign they have in there, Allah Muhammad, mean God is Muhammad.
Okay, now I know a lot of them say there is but one God and Muhammad is his prophet.
But
in that time, Muhammad was God.
To them, that was it. The authority is him. Whatever he said went. Because if they didn't, they got chopped. That's it.
Now, you tell me about the Alawites.
Yeah.
Yes. It was Allah, take it or... in other words, Muhammad was Allah.
Yeah, to them.
Yeah.
To them, that was it. They followed everything. This is what I studied in the history of where I lived there for the time I was there. Remember now, I came to this country in the last part of 1959. So after that, a lot of things changed, but these are what we studied when
I was about 29, and I was a well-known evangelist in Spanish-speaking America. Okay.
Yeah, but again,
now tell me about the Alawites.
The Alawites was, like I said, the least people that really, really followed Muhammad like the way he wants it done. Ali, which is Ali in Arabic, he was more of an easygoing guy. A lot of people followed him. He wasn't as strict as Muhammad. and all this stuff. So people followed him. They didn't have to wear the veil. They wore maybe just a little thing on their head. Even the Christian, I remember my own grandmother, where she lived, because they were Christian and Muslim, all the women were wearing a little veil in the back of their head. It's like a little scarf
Well,
hanging
there
back.
was a time that Catholics had to, and most of us did.
Yeah, so
Most
that
of
was,
us women, and right now, African American women wear beautiful hats to church. Their hats and their suits, and
Right.
it's a gorgeous thing.
right.
It isn't so much done as a covering, um, although there are some things in the Bible about women covering their heads in church, when they're in church. And I have explained to my class how in Latin America, in Mexico, many women just wore a shawl, and before going into church, they would pull it up from their shoulders over their head. Is that something
Yep.
that was
Even
done
the
too?
Christian, the Christian in the Middle East, they're like that. Almost to this day, they don't like you to go in without a little cover on your face or something on your shoulder.
Now, is that respect, or is that habit, or
No,
culture?
it is respect to the church, and I think this is the way that the beginning of the world over there. So, you don't want to go in with shorts like they do. I see them here now and all that. So we always had a scarf with us when we went to
When
church.
I went to the Vatican, we had a girl that was wearing, I believe it was like Bermuda shorts, or they were long. They were like to the knee. They wouldn't let her in the Vatican.
No.
Well, she just went off, and because she had on, like I'm wearing a top, but my top comes about 8 inches below my waist. So she would just lowered her shorts and brought her shorts to where they were covering her knees. But the guy remembered her, and wouldn't let her in.
We were never allowed to go in with the pants either. We had to wear a dress to go in, and skirts or whatever, and we have to have a little scarf on as a Christian even to our church.
Okay.
But here's the thing, more or less like when we go up in the mountains, because we had a house in the mountains, that's where the little town that my dad is from, and we went there, and you look at the Christian and the Muslim, they wear the same stuff, same thing. You look at the women, both, they're wearing the same thing. You could never tell the Christian from the Muslim.
Okay, there's a question here, and but my guest is not Muslim.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm definitely.
No, she's definitely no.
No.
Believe me, she doesn't speak Muslim, doesn't want to.
Hey, my
doesn't
sister-in-law.
live near one.
My sister-in-law's father. He's the
talk
priest.
about dating one. That is you get your head taken off. And she's never been in a mosque.
No, and
now,
women were never allowed to go in the mosque.
Women couldn't go in.
No.
Right now,
now it's changed. I hear women here going to the mosque, but in my days, never. Women cannot go into the mosque.
I was, of course, I've been in Israel and in Turkey, and in a number of countries in the Mideast, in Egypt and so forth. And what happened with them allowing us in, of course, I went in as a tourist. And first of all, they really bent the rules for us, because we went and we looked and then we bought things. What else can I say? That's what tourists do.
But now I have a question for you. Now, when you went into the mosque, did you go all the way in where they were praying too?
Yes.
You were lucky they let you in.
Yes.
Now, there's a
we
place...
were not in during a prayer service when anybody was praying, but
you have to take your shoes off.
Now you have a cousin who's a doctor, and you know the booties that doctors wear in surgery. Well, we were given booties. They didn't even make us take our shoes off. Now, I noticed I was in the same mosque that President Obama was in. I recognized it. And he had to take his shoes off. But when I went, they we left our shoes on, and they just gave us those booties. But like I said, they were being nice to us because we were tourists, and tourists bring money into a particular country. And
In the Middle East, no?
well, this
Did
was
you
in
ever?
this was in the Middle East.
Okay, which one? What?
I'm
where
trying to
in the-
remember if it was Turkey
you?
or Israel. I
Okay.
don't
Must be
remember.
in Palestine or Jordan.
I
that
wish,
area. I
but
don't know.
but they
But I have a story for
they
you.
had it may have been Israel, and
I'm really surprised. Yeah.
um,
There's a place in Damascus. I don't know if you ever
you know,
know.
I have to get out my pictures and my slides, and I'm sure when I do that there'll be more information written
Okay.
on some of them.
Okay. There's a mosque in Damascus that used to be church. It was St. John. It's called St. John Church. Huge. It's in the middle of Damascus. And it used
Now, by the
when
way, it was on the
okay.
way to Damascus that the Apostle Paul had his encounter with God, and Damascus is still the capital of Syria, is it not?
Mhm.
And Damascus was a big city then. Paul went back there to preach after his experience with God, and then when he went out to the Arabian desert, and when he came back, it was to Damascus that he came back to.
Mhm.
Now, Damascus is
It's an ancient.
how big of a city? Not good with.
Probably, I would say maybe at least 1 million people now. I don't know. It wasn't that big. It used to be the largest city in Syria, and next to it was
Isn't it
Aleppo.
biggest? Isn't
I think
it
it
still
is
the
still the
biggest
largest. Yeah,
in Damascus?
but
Good shopping and everything.
oh
I
yeah,
hear.
lots of good shopping and lots. The sweets are out of this world. And I I hate going back now anymore because it's not the same. It's totally changed. I don't know when all these Muslims went against Bashar al-Assad, which is he is an Alawite. He is modern. He protects the Christian and all these ISIS and the Muslims, the Sunnis. They don't like that. That's one of the things that is going on right now in the Middle East between Saudi Arabia and the Syrians. The Syrian, most of them, the majority of them, they like Bashar al-Assad because he is a modern person. He doesn't want the hijab. When he
Okay,
asked
I'm
them,
going to stop you right here. I notice on my screen that we're now being featured. We have an additional bunch of people, something like 22.
wow, okay.
So I want to explain to them, because we have a bunch of people that were not here from the beginning of our program.
Mhm.
And instead of doing a Bible study, I have a guest who spent her childhood and youth in the Mideast, in Syria, and in Jordan.
Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Lebanon. Lebanon to Jordan.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, Lebanon. My mother is from Lebanon.
Okay. But at any rate, we'll be asking a number of questions, but right now she's been asked questions. And since one of the questions, when I said you didn't know anything about Muslims,
Mhm.
and then you told me that you've never been in a mosque, which
No.
I was once. But let me go back. There was a question there earlier. It says, how do you worship in the Muslim religion, and what are your practices? And I think they're saying that question was, how did the Muslims worship, and what were their religious practices when you were growing up surrounded by many Muslims?
All I know is women never went into the mosque, only the man.
Only
And
men
that's
went into
why,
mosques?
yeah, that's why I came into this place in Damascus that used to be St. John Church. And Muhammad Day, he went in there, into that church, and he slaughtered a lot of Christians there. And John the Baptist is grave is in this mosque. Now it's a mosque, but it used to be his. That's why they called it St. John.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he's buried.
Now this is St. John there's more than one. Is this
in
the
Damascus,
one who wrote the book of Revelation? This would be Jesus. This would be
the one who baptized Jesus.
Oh, John the Baptist.
John the Baptist.
Okay,
yes.
we studied that this morning. We studied when Gabriel talked to Zechariah, John the Baptist's father.
Did you guys know that his grave is in the middle of Damascus, in that now it's a mosque, because when Muhammad went in, and there's a story, I don't know, you have to believe what you want to believe, but we read it in one of the books in Damascus, that when Muhammad went in and he butchered and he killed a lot of people in that church, then he went to John the Baptist, his grave, and he told them to destroy it. And when they start destroying it, they said the blood started coming out of it, and it flew through the streets of Damascus. Now that was a big story. Was in the books, in some of the books we read
in your history books that you
Exactly,
study.
exactly. And then
let's make sure that we got this right.
mhm,
It was John the Baptist,
mhm.
not Saint John.
No, John
This
the
could
Baptist.
be Saint John the Baptist
Yeah.
if he was given sainthood.
Mhm.
That's a possibility too. But we're talking
But
about
they
John the
called it
Baptist.
Saint John.
By the way, John the Baptist was filled with the Holy Spirit before he was born. We did
Mhm.
that last Sunday.
Mhm.
So and this today we did his birth.
Mhm.
And they're giving him this morning, and they're giving him the name of John the Baptist because
Mhm.
the relatives and the neighbors,
Mm.
the cousins and the neighbors, were
Mhm.
trying to run their life and say, "Well, name him
Mhm.
after Zechariah," you know.
Mhm.
But the angel had said his name will be John, just like the same angel told
Mhm.
Mary his name will be Jesus,
Mhm.
and an angel, we don't know which one,
Mhm.
talked to Joseph in a dream
Mm.
and told him that Jesus' name would be Jesus. So John's name was picked out in advance, and it is the last verse in the Old Testament prophesies that John the Baptist would be born and what his job would be and what part he would
Mhm.
play.
Mhm.
And we did so last week. We did. The angel speaking to Zechariah, and then 6 months later, the same angel goes to Mary,
Mhm.
and when Mary says, "How can it be? I don't have a man. How can I become pregnant?" And the angel said, "Oh, just so you know that with God everything is impossible, your relative, who's too old to have kids, is now 6 months pregnant." So Mary went to visit her.
Mm.
So we did that last week and some this week.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we've got this again. If this is in the history books, as you said, it's a matter of faith. People can believe what they want to believe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Apparently, it was a big enough matter at some time,
Mhm.
at least in some places, that it made it into the history books, that in the church, I should put the telephones under the pillow or in the bathtub or something. But at any rate, you're saying that in the church, St.
Mhm.
John the Baptist, um, and his burial place is nearby.
It's still
And
in the mosque now. It turned in. They made it a mosque.
they made a mosque
And
out
when
of
the
it.
blood went like this, they told them, Muhammad told them they have to go back, restore it, and leave it there. And they have things around it, the sewer light, whatever. So people go visit. I went personally, and I visited because we are allowed to go into the middle of the mosque, which is that's just a big, huge place like the Vatican outside.
Mhm.
And then the mosque would be. They took the churches, and that's what they used as a mosque. And as you go through that, you see the mosque
They
on
took
the inside.
churches and made mosques out of them?
This church is very well known in the middle of Damascus. It's called Jami' al-Amawi Mosque. And that's very well known. Everybody goes from anywhere. They go and visit it. You have to take your shoes off. Then they give you a abaya to put all over you to cover yourself to go through that. And I personally did that once when I was a young girl and went and visited John the Baptist's grave.
Inside of a mosque
Inside
that
of a mosque.
at one time had been
It was
inside of a church.
Exactly.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we had all that.
Yeah, we have lots and lots of history in Damascus. Also, I took my husband once over there with me,
Mhm.
and there's a place where we lived, which is like the Christian area, and we went to Beatrice, where he took Jesus when he was in Damascus, and he was followed by people who wanted to kill him, and he wanted to hide him. He took it into this church underground, and way underground. I don't remember now, 20 steps almost down below we went. I took my husband. He couldn't believe it. It's still intact. I heard now is being destroyed by the ISIS and what's going on. So I don't know. I haven't been there for 5 years. I'm afraid to go back. So, but there's lots and lots and lots of history in Damascus if you go over there and you'll see if it's still there.
Syria is quite a place.
It is. It's
Now, you had started, and when we were being featured, that was 29 minutes ago,
Yeah.
and I stopped you because I wanted to bring those people up to date. What it means is when you go into iVlog, you have, I guess, 3 choices. You can join, and you get to go into the programs and type, you know, and so forth, your comments. Or you can go as a guest, and if a person comes as a guest, it's up to the hosts whether we want to allow them the privilege of typing messages in or not. Or if you don't want to do that, because in order to do that, you're supposed to read the terms of service and the rules of how to behave and promise to obey them. If you don't want to do that, then you can just watch, and there is always, if there are, let's say, 15 programs on, then one of the 15 of us is being featured, which means that anybody just comes to iVlog, they don't have to do anything, and somebody's program is on. And so when I said we're being featured, I got the notice there that I was being featured. That meant that people didn't have to do anything. If they got there, they could just sit there and they would automatically see my program. But now somebody else is being featured, so I was bringing those people up to date. Now, at that time, you were telling us about, I guess we went from there to, we were talking about the Alawites. And then there are the Sunnis. What is it that Americans are told, or many Americans believe, that we need the Sunnis to help us?
Exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
They're the one who went into, even at this point right now, I have relatives up in Raqqa, Kamishli, the border of Iraq and all that. They've been killed, they've been dead by the Sunnis. They went to all the Christian, wherever there's a Christian, they went and they killed them. Bashar al-Assad is the only savior, the Middle East, the people in
the
Syria.
Shah of Iran.
No, Bashar al-Assad is the Syrian president. He's the only one.
Okay.
Assad,
I just mispronounced it.
Yeah. So he is the only one who can save the Christian in the Middle East. They went to a place, an ancient place also. It's called Malula. I don't know if the people ever goes on the computer and see what happened to Malula. They can type Malula and they can look and then see what happened to it. It's a place where they have the Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ.
Is this not the place that's the oldest Christian church alive?
It sure is, yes.
Okay, it's the oldest Christian church alive. It's right close to the border. And we have kept up in prayer and praise. We've kept up with what they've done in that city.
This church here is not too far away from Damascus. It's up, and the people even still speak the language of those.
It's a different language.
Exactly.
They don't speak Arabic.
They went there. They destroyed the church. They took 3 nuns out of there. And to this day, nobody knows where those nuns went. And they broke everything in there. The cross, and all this. Bashar al-Assad went over there and visited the Christian there. And he's the one who will be the only one who would save the Christian in the Middle East. So what American people need, they need to protect this man and let the country know this man to be protected.
And this man is the president.
He's the president, and he's the Alawite. He's from the Alawite followers.
Okay.
And really, that ISIS, the Sunni, always been the problem of the Middle East. Always. Even before Bashar al-Assad, when his dad was the president, they were always the problem.
Now, you told me earlier today that when you were little and growing up, that it was customary, or it happened frequently, that if the president of Syria happened to be Muslim, that it was not uncommon for the vice president to be Christian.
Years ago,
And then vice versa. If the president was Christian, that it was common that the vice president would be Muslim.
Well, there were really never, I don't remember at any time at all that there was a Christian, in my days, a Christian president, but vice president, yes.
Okay.
And it was okay. Now, no way, it's impossible, you know. But there's a lot of, you know.
Now, the place, we did some following, and I brought it out in some of my programs, but it's been before Sissy was coming to my programs. I've been doing this 10 years. But she's asking the name of the place where the nuns disappeared, and they actually destroyed the oldest Christian church and the oldest Christian community, and they have their own language. Can you spell the name of that place?
I would say it's Malola, Malula. My husband went there with me. He knows, you know, he's
okay. Is it Malela?
No, Malola, Malula.
Okay. I'm writing O, but I'm hearing
I may have spelled it wrong, but maybe it'll come right on the computer, because Richard and I, my husband.
Yeah, I can't now because I'm using all the computers to do one thing, but I'll check with your husband.
Yeah, and
and I'll ask him, and then I'll give you that later. I recall it, and you can probably type the oldest Christian church in Syria or something like that. But I will check it out for you and give it to you later. It is a terrible historic loss.
Yeah, very, very.
As far as it's every bit as bad as some of the things that Hitler did. It's just one place where Hitler did this. What he did it to Poland and to a lot of places. So it's as bad as anything, or worse than anything that.
Yeah, it's even scary to go to church anymore, from what I understand from my relatives. Just 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, one of my relatives was in Damascus, just coming out of a church, and they were outside standing talking, and they threw a bomb onto the church outside, and it hit a lot of the people. One of them was my cousin.
Do we know who threw the bomb?
Of course, the people who is against Bashar al-Assad, the president, you know. They're the one who want to destroy all the Christian there. They don't want them there. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah. And then we're bringing them all over here. We're bringing them all over here. And this is not going to end in San Bernardino, believe me.
No, we know that. And I'm so thankful that at least some people who have a public office or public offices are opening up and talking about this now, because they were talking about the fact that they made a mistake. The government made a mistake in vetting or in checking up on the woman of the pair, that I guess they pretty much decided it was an act of terror. And it's at any rate, she had given a false address, and they didn't pick up on that. And
so much of that going on.
The idea is, if they didn't pick up on that, and I know there's so many things. I won't go into it, but when I graduated with my first university degree, that year the students, it was the last year you could get a teaching certificate after just a bachelor's degree. After that, it was a bachelor's degree plus more stuff in California. And there were some things, and I didn't know whether I qualified or not, because most of my work as an educator had been outside of the state of California, and I didn't know if it was going to work. And somebody said, just apply. They probably won't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know to the date whether I qualified or not, but it didn't make any difference. I just wanted I continued my education, but I wanted it to count toward a master's and a doctorate and so forth. I didn't want just to become a teacher. And somebody said, well, don't even worry about it. They don't notice.
That's what I'm worried about now, too. They're doing
Well, and
the
you
same
can
thing.
buy for such a small amount of money, you can buy a passport to another country, and then it looks like you're coming from France or England or Australia. It doesn't look like you're coming.
And when you go and put an application for anything these days, I notice they don't check it. They just go by what you said. Those days are gone. I have lots of cousins who are doctors, lawyers, very well educated. They want to come to this country to further their education. They've all been refused. And what they're doing, they're giving all the Muslim now the visas to come to this country. Even Germany is doing the same thing. Same thing. France is the same way. They're not bringing the Christian, they're bringing the Muslims. They're bringing all these. Now the refugees are coming. These people are not the refugees from Syria. These are not the people that.
Now, what she's going to tell you now is important because she told me this earlier today.
Yeah.
The people that they are wanting to send, they are saying they are the wives and the children
of the ISIS.
Of Syrians.
Mm-hmm. No, these are of the ISIS. All these that are pulling themselves away from the real decent people in Syria and the president. Those are the one who is coming over here. Plus, a lot of people coming from all over the Pakistan, Afghanistan.
Go to Syria.
They're going to Syria and coming with these people.
So they're really coming from Pakistan. They're just coming through Syria on their way here.
Exactly, to make people think that's where they are. A lot of those here, that's what's going to destroy us here, destroy our country we love. America, I'm finding out now, it's not the same America I came to 50 some years ago. And I regret that. I hate to see anything like this happen to our country.
And I was born here,
yes.
And I'm older
yes.
than you are,
yes.
and I hate to see what's
happening. And I love this country. I don't want to see anything happen. Believe me, when I came to this country, I was so happy because I felt like I'm coming to a Christian country where I could be free and say what I want to say, do what I want to do, and not to be watched. And now it's just they're destroying it. Why are we bringing them all here? Why are we? All this money is coming from Saudi Arabia to build mosques over here. All these mosques, you know what they are? That's the problem of our country here right now, because that's where all
the
stuff
training
is going
grounds and the receiving grounds.
Exactly. Now I agree with Donald Trump. I never thought the day would come when I would agree with Donald Trump on anything, but this is where I see, and you know, it's good for him. He's speaking up.
Okay. Now we had somebody else come in here, and I believe North Korea. I believe that you've not been to my program before, so welcome. And let me read what you said. Let me see if you said anything before that. Let me check something here. I'm working here with a laptop, and I have to go back. It takes both hands for me to do something. Okay, now it says North Korea is his screen name, like Preacher with Parrots is my screen name. Okay, he says, it's weird how me and my wife and white, I think he means our white, I think it's a typo. Me and my wife are white, and wife are black, are white, but our baby is black. God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, exactly. What difference does it make?
I don't know. And now we got another question. How did she get over there and raised there, or did she was born? She was born in Syria, or
who?
Huh?
Who was born in Syria?
You.
Oh, me? Yeah, I was born. Actually, I was born in Lebanon.
You were born in Lebanon.
In Lebanon, but we moved to Syria. We lived in Lebanon for 7-8 years. Then my parents moved to Syria because my dad is from Syria, my mother is from Lebanon.
Okay.
That's right. And I grew up in both. And of course, more Christian in Lebanon at that time than, it was more freedom and more in Lebanon than there was in Syria. Now it's all the same, but we're afraid. I have lots and lots and lots of family there.
Now,
Lots of family. I worry about them.
Yeah. Now, I know you worry about your family, and I do too. And I know that I know it's not possible for you to really know how things are there, but in as much as you've got it figured out or whatever, how is it different now for your brother's kids
Hmm.
growing up than it
Scared.
was for you and your brother growing up?
Those kids now they're very scared. They're not free to do what they want, go around and all this. They're scared. Even when I'm talking to them on the phone all the time, they tell me, "Are you listening? Listen to the bombs." Those kids, I want him to come. My brother is American citizen, but he's stuck. He can't even bring his kids over here, and we
How
can't.
old are these kids?
7 and 8. They're going to be. One of them's going to
Yeah,
be
I
8.
I remember sending one of them a Christmas present. It doesn't seem like it's been 8 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the oldest one's going to be 8, the 29th of this month, and the other one will be 7 in
And
March.
talking to them on the phone, you can hear
I can hear
bombs.
the bombing, and they'll say to me, we can't get out of the house. How can we go? Can we do this? Listen to this. I hope things simmer down here. You know, Scared, very scared. They have no life. Very expensive. You can't find anything. They have no electricity. That last week they were without electricity for a whole week. No water, no nothing. As soon as they fix it all up, they put it together and they send it out to the people. ISIS comes in and bomb it again. And here they go. They live on candles. They can't eat like they should. It's hard to get goods. And I'm having a hard time. I want to go back and see them. But the last time I was there, 2 years after I came back, the last trip, war started and I can't go back.
After you were there, what?
2 years after I came back from my last trip, I was ready to go back again, and I couldn't go back because of the war. The war started.
Yeah. And I know
it's
there's
a shame. It's a shame.
a lot of
We used to
details
get
that-
along real well. We have no problem with Muslim, Christian, Muslim. All we loved each other and all this. All of a sudden, we got these ISIS people that they care less. They don't care. They don't care. You see it on television. They can cut your head off, and it doesn't faze them.
Yeah.
It doesn't faze them. They went to every church. I urge also your follower to go on. Also, there's the church. It's called St. George in Aleppo. Go on that and check it out and see what they did to that one. Aleppo.
King George?
No, it's just St. George.
St. George.
St. George, yeah. In Aleppo. Most beautiful church in the Middle East.
In where?
Aleppo.
Aleppo?
Mhm.
A-L?
Yeah. P-O, I think, or P-P-O or something like that.
A-L-I-P-P-O?
Yeah. A-L-E-P-P-O, I think. Yeah. Or maybe A-L-P.
And this is in Syria?
Mm-hmm. That's the second largest city in Syria.
And they did give me a clue, so I'll know if I bring it up.
They went in and they destroyed it. You see it on computer. We saw it a million times. My husband freaked out when he saw that. And he's American. He's not even from the Middle East.
Okay.
And he's been with me twice, 3 times over there.
Yeah.
He loved the country. He loved the people. He can't talk enough about those people when he went.
Yeah.
Now it's a mess. So they're following us over here. They're going to destroy us here.
Yeah.
We have to put a stop.
Do any of you have a comment or a question? It is sad. It's sad. Tata and I were discussing earlier about people from the Mideast going through Syria and then coming here as though they were Syrians when they are not. They're from Pakistan, which this woman who was shot by the police after they shot dead 14 people and put another, I believe 21 now that were injured, as well as the 14. And
if that's not terrorist, I don't know what's terror.
That's right. That's right. And the thing of it is that there were people who suspected something was not right. And but they were afraid to say anything about it because they would then become what do they call them? Phobic. It's not Muslim phobe. I can't think of the word for it because can anybody help me out with it? It's Islamophobes? Is that yes, let's see. I told praise the day it happened. It was the wife that converted her husband to do this. Well, he is an American-born Muslim.
What about
she's being
Texas? Remember that guy in Texas?
She's being confused.
In the army?
She's being accused of being
Who converted him?
One that's not making him into a Muslim. He already was Muslim, but making him
Fort Hood. Fort Hood, Texas. Who converted that guy in Fort Hood, Texas?
Yeah,
he was American-born too.
She's talking about Fort Hood.
He killed 14 people too, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was in the army.
He was in the army. He's still getting paid.
Yeah. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. It's
really,
it
doesn't
take...
And
you know what started this whole war? I want you to know. And when I was growing up there, and every time I went back to visit, Saudi Arabian people kept coming to Syria with their money. When they started having all this money from their oil, they were purchasing practically half of Syria, the land, the houses. They built castles and all this. And then when the Syrian people went to Saudi Arabia, they were not allowed to buy anything there. And to this day, it's the same. They are not allowed to reside there. They cannot become a Saudi Arabian citizen. And a lot of American people go over there. They know where they have to live in the section just for the Americans because they're working there. Woman is not allowed to drive. She had to wear the veil and all this.
Now this is in
Saudi Arabia. But when they came to Syria and bought the lands and all this, and they put it in their names, the president of Syria went and said, wait, stop. My people are going to your country. They cannot buy land there. They cannot live there like we do here and freely. The women can't drive. All this stuff here, he put a stop to it. He put freeze on their assets and told them until they treat us the same. They treat the Syrian the same. And they don't like it. And that's when this whole thing started because he didn't want the woman to wear the hijab. He didn't want the woman to wear this veil and all this stuff. So that is the problem. That's when it started. It was good enough for them to buy Syria, but it was not good for the Syrian to be able to go to Saudi Arabia and buy anything there and be able to live there or even become citizens. That's what, and then we're supporting it here. Our president is supporting this.
Yeah. This summer it didn't work for me because of the ear surgery in June. But the summer before, at the spa, the spa has 2 hot tubs outside, and then there's one in the women's room and one in the men's room. But it's beautiful out there, and to be in the hot tub spa, and it's much more pleasant than just being in the room. So I like to go out there in the summer. I was out there, I guess it must have been summer before this past summer, and there was a family from Saudi Arabia, and she was dressed as best I can describe it. She was dressed in what I would call a underwater suit, one of these things, a diver's suit. That she had long pants on, and she was totally covered.
Yeah.
And
That's all facade, Barbara. All facade. This is it. I get so sick and tired of seeing these women. Now everywhere you go, that's all you see. Get that damn hijab off. What is it? I think the main thing is so they cannot be known when they cause trouble. That's the way I feel. Like my brother now wants to bring his kids and come back here. He's American
well,
citizen.
there's some talk about sometime the men that are wanted hiding out
Wearing a
when
abaya
they're
and all.
veiled.
Yeah,
There was question about
exactly.
unless they're extremely heavy weight or extremely tall or something, it's impossible to know who's behind, either even a man or a woman.
Exactly. You remember France when Sarkozy was the president and he told all the Muslims he did not want to allow any of them with the veil in any place in France, and the uprising went crazy. And why do you think they're doing what they're doing now over there? Because he told them, he said, I don't know under the cover what's in there. I don't want that.
Yeah, well, a
But you
driver's
see,
license is a little difficult too. Let me read. Let's see.
if anybody
It
has a
says,
question,
I've got a question
I'm
here.
ready.
Does she know or have friends here that are citizens of the United States? Lots of them.
Of course.
You don't
Of course.
you don't know any.
Muslim and
Yeah,
Christian.
you've been here since '59,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
been here since
I
'59.
have friends Muslim and Christian, and you know.
But you have more Christian friends.
Oh
Than,
yeah,
I mean,
I only have maybe couple Muslim, but the rest, and they're wonderful people. They're wonderful people. I love them to death. They're nice people. But how are we going to know where these people are popping up from unless we watch what's going on?
Yeah. Let's see. Let me finish this statement. I read only half of it. The women that are here now that are citizens of the United States, why do they still wear the hijab if they are citizens of the United States? I think the answer is because they're still Muslims. Is that the answer?
Yeah, and they want to be known. It's like they are proud of it. Oh, okay, here we are. We're
here
Muslim.
I am. I'm a Muslim. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're here for a better life. Take that hijab off and live like everybody else.
This is the question. This is something I've heard people say on Fox News. We all came from somewhere. 250 years ago, 300 years ago, there was no U.S. of A. So we all came from somewhere.
Exactly.
But we are all one. We assimilate. You and I are a great deal alike, and some of our friends and other friends and so forth. We're a great deal alike. Although the countries that we represent may be different, but we have all become Americans, except the Muslims have not become American.
And I can't tell you how many of them, they come here, they're millionaires, they have money, but they come and they go straight to welfare. They live on the welfare. I've known many of them. They go back and forth. They become American citizen. They collect money, and then they get free medicals. And every 2-3 months, they go back and forth, back and forth. They come for their medical.
They go back to
their country,
another
whatever country, and they come back for the medicals. They come and collect their. And what's the biggest mistake America is doing right now is having their money go straight to the bank. They don't go and pick it up themselves like years ago.
Yeah.
Now it goes into the bank. Their sons, their daughters,
and
whatever. They have an account. They come over here. They live it up. They take their money and then they go back. And this is on and on and on. And the other thing is, and I have never known any country in the world. I was born in Lebanon. My mother was Lebanese, but I was a Syrian citizen because my mother doesn't, it's the man. You have to follow your father. And just because I was born in Lebanon doesn't mean I'm Lebanese. Because my father is Syria, I go to Syria. That's where my citizenship it was at the time. Here, they come over here, they have their babies, and they become
Their
the
babies
baby's
become
American
citizens
citizen,
if
and
they're
they
born
bring
here.
them over
Yeah.
here.
I think that's a
When are
mistake.
we gonna? Yeah, when are we gonna wake up to all this? And then we pay for this baby. If their parents came here, they act like they have nothing. What we pay them, we give them money, we give them everything they need.
Sissy,
And
this is what
sad.
Tata is telling us. She's saying take the veil off if you want to live here, but they're
Yep.
not coming here to become like us. They
No.
don't want to assimilate. They want us to become like them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if we went to Pakistan and say, okay, I'm here. All of
Mhm.
you now treat me like an American, and I want you to dress like an American.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, not only do I continue my rights here in your country, but now all of you have to not don't even say bad things about
Yeah.
me.
Let me ask you a question. Why is it when our media goes over there, did you notice when they're there, including Barbara Walter, including any of those media, wearing a scarf, where they don't allow them to go out on the street with their
Well,
hair
you
showing? Did
know,
you
I
notice
would
that?
do it.
Why could they come to this country, do what they want, but we can't go to their
That's
country
it.
and do this?
I go someplace
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I always, out of respect for where I am,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, there's some things I wouldn't do.
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
wouldn't
And me too. I
I
feel,
wouldn't cover myself. I
yeah,
wouldn't wear
yeah.
a burqa or anything like that.
Mm.
But to put a scarf on when I get off the airplane, I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
that. I would do that. I
But they
even,
request you to do that over there, especially Saudi
yeah,
Arabia. You can't
yeah,
go
I would
anywhere.
do it
Yeah.
just because I want to show respect,
Okay. Then
not
why
because
can't
I
we?
have to.
Okay. Why can't we require them to do what we
Yeah,
want
they
them to
should have,
do,
yeah,
like they
respect
do
goes
us
both
when we go
ways.
over there?
Respect goes both
I
ways.
wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia if you pay me.
But see,
I have
they're
a
right and
friend.
we're wrong.
Yeah, I have a friend who went there. Her husband took a job over there. She couldn't even last 6 months. She said, "I am not going and wearing that abaya and not covering my face to go downtown, Jeddah or Mecca or whatever. The hell with them." She turned around and came back. Left her husband by himself over there. She said, "I couldn't drive. I couldn't
Susie
do
said they
anything."
would cut off her head first.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sissy, I hope they don't cut your head, my head off. I'm not going over there.
Okay, we have about 25 minutes left, and
Oh, wow.
let me look over my notes here and see if uh, you
Spread the word.
um,
Uh,
you told me about your father's father,
oh,
and this is right now you have an incident going on with a plane between the Turkish and Syria, right? They have a border.
Putin and all that, yeah.
Now, do you want to share that with us?
Sure. This is a story my father told me, and every time he said it, he would freak out, really. His, my grandmother had 4 children.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sissy, with your question. It's okay. While
Yeah.
she's talking, you can type it in.
Yeah. She had 4 children, three boys and one daughter. My dad was the second one. He was 10 years old. I don't remember whether it was that there was a war between. See, I know it more in Arabic than I know it in English because I know the names and all this. I don't know whether it's a Roman or what. There was a big war going on in Turkey, and Turkey was ruling Syria at the time. And my grandfather, they draft him and draft many guys from the same town.
So the Turkish government was drafting people out of Syria
To
to
go
go
and fight.
fight for Turkey.
Exactly, my grandfather was one of them, plus other relatives, So, and then he was there for like 2 years fighting the war, and he
So
came
then he came
back
here
to
to
visit his
spend a
family
little time with his
in
family,
Syria.
and
Exactly.
he didn't really want to
Want
go
to go
back.
back? He was scared. He didn't want to go back because he wants to stay alive for his children, so he could raise his children. So they came back. He didn't go back, so they came back. He and several other people. They came looking for them to find them, and when they do that, they take them and they have to serve time, and they get beat with their whip. So my grandfather found out that they're in town looking for he and him and bunch of other people. So he told my dad, don't, if they come and ask you where your dad, tell them you don't know. It's okay to lie. Just save me. Because if they take me, I may never come back. So he says, I'm going to go back and hide. They have like things like fireplaces almost. It's empty on the inside.
Yeah, I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to show you a little bit more of my fireplace here, because she was explaining, this is my fireplace. Behind it, there's nothing, okay? This goes, let's see, one of the cameras is showing it better than the other.
But the inside is empty.
Okay.
So back in the Middle East in those days, they used to put their garbanzo and wheat and lentils and all that food in there, and so they can use it. That was their
store
place
it. So when they needed it, it would be there.
Exactly.
Things like beans and
Yes,
things that you can go and it doesn't.
And it's open
spoil.
from the top, so my grandfather jumped in and hid in there, up to his practically head is only showing. And they came, they call him gendarme, and the guy came in, the gendarme who was like in the army, and he beat the hell out of my dad. My poor dad, he said he was blistered. And he said, I don't know. I did not see my dad. He left 3 days ago and all this. So they finally left. After they left, my dad went running everywhere to get someone to help his dad out because it's not easy to get out.
Yeah.
And I guess he suffocated. He lasted a week, and he suffocated and died, and left his 4 children behind. My dad was at 10 years old. He had to get out of school, and then go and try to learn, carpentry or whatever he can, so he can help my grandmother, who used to also. She started going into. There's a big hotel in the town, and then she would go over there and wash sheets by hand to be able to make a little money to raise her kids. And my dad would be helping by working for people here and there. And my dad used to just get so upset when he would tell us that story.
Well, yeah, 10 is awfully young to even have a parent die.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're there, and they're questioning a 10-year-old, where is your dad? And he knows.
And beat him up on top of it.
And beat a 10-year-old, and he knows, and he can't tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 10.
Yeah, he was 10 years old.
He's being asked to, I would think anybody that was 20 would have a hard time dealing with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
and my grandma has a hard time. She was the sweetest woman. I remember her. If she went to visit anybody, somebody gave her a piece of candy. She had it in her bra and brought it to us, when we were her grandkids, to give it to us. And I mean, that poor woman went through so much to raise those kids, 4 kids.
There's a question here that says, how can we determine at this time in our society how to put faith and trust into people of the Muslim religion? Can we? If a person's a Muslim, do we automatically say, I can't trust you? Or are there some Muslims we can trust and some, and how do we know?
But I have to watch them. I will say, keep your eyes and ears open. Bud your nose into what you see them doing. It's like this in San Bernardino. This woman next door, she was scared to death to go and say anything because she was afraid what was going to be the backlash at her. I think our country, our government needs to protect those people. If they have something to say, they see something, to protect them.
Yeah.
I've turned people and myself that unknowingly, knowing that they are collecting welfare, they have money and everything, and I didn't get anywhere. They asked me to give them the information. No, my job is to tell you who they are and where they are.
And you look for the information.
I am not good. And I never, those people to this day, they're still collecting welfare.
Yeah.
And they have money into their kids' names, into everybody's name. I know they're rich.
And the fact that some people are collecting welfare when they shouldn't be getting it, that gives somebody else a job that works in the welfare office.
Exactly.
And then it says, Lord, how can you determine, let's see, Uh, let's see. Wait a minute. Let me see. I gotta move this up.
I get so upset.
And to continue with my question, how can she determine who to trust and not get killed? It has to be scary for her. I guess they're talking about you.
It is scary. It is scary, but you have to do it without, being anonymous. That's it. That's the only way. You cannot give your
Well,
name.
she's talking about how can you trust people, especially Muslims?
I watch every move they make. I keep my ears and eyes open. I try to get my eyes in the back and front, basically.
Back of your head.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So this is all I can do, and that's not fully, what do you call, whatever. I can't
Let's
think of the
see.
word.
Am I missing something? Am I getting something wrong, Sissy? Do you need to? And maybe you need to ask me a question again. If I haven't been able to answer what you've asked, maybe you need to answer it again. I got it? Okay. We're okay. We've got it. Let's see.
I love to see the old days come back. I love to see the old days come back when we can all trust each other, live with each other in peace.
You were telling me about how Christmas, how they started celebrating in the churches in an unusual way.
Month in advance, yes.
3 months or so in advance.
Month in advance, yes. They make, like, they spray paper maches, huge big pieces and things. The churches, they put the manger and all this. It's like almost real. Every church is like that. And instead of go out like we do here for Christmas to go see lights, you go over there in the churches.
You go from one church, and then the churches are open if another citizen wants to go in and look.
Anybody can go. In fact, lots and lots of our Muslim friends in school used to go with us, and they loved it. And they'd say, "Oh, you guys."
Well, it was like a field trip.
Yes, yes. And it is, beautiful. And we at home, we would do the same on a small scale. And Mom would say, "Okay, guys, all of you here." She'd give us plates and then cottons, and you put the cottons on the plates, and you fill it up with water. You put your garbanzo and your lentils and your wheat and the beans and all that, and then we get them to grow in there. And then when we do this paper mache thing, looks like Bethlehem, then we put all these on some other place that looks like real. It's just beautiful. And it was a feeling. It was a different feeling. It was a wonderful feeling. A lot of our Muslim friends, girls and stuff, and boys, and they used to come over, and they just
say, it's like we here go from neighborhoods that decorate a lot. We try to find one.
Exactly.
I know that you remember in Prayer and Praise a number of months ago we were praying for the cousin of a close friend that was out in one of the national parks. And anyway, those kids, they're like my nieces and nephews. And every Christmas I took them to neighborhoods that give prizes for decorating, and to stores and special houses, neighborhoods that were just...
it seems to me like Christmas here is more commercialized than anything else. Back in the Middle East, we didn't do this. We did not take gifts all the time and gave it to this and give me, and I give you, or you give me, I give you. This is how we celebrated. And on that Christmas Eve, we went to church and celebrated in church, and then came back home that night. And then the next morning, the woman stays home, and they had baked the cookies and all this stuff. And the man goes from one house to the other to wish everybody Merry Christmas, because somebody has to be in your home to accept you. And you offer the cookies, you offer the little candy, those covered, almond covered candy and stuff like that.
But it's personal, something you made. You didn't buy it.
No, exactly.
It's made in your home.
Yeah, and you can buy. A lot of people will buy extra, and all this stuff too. But this is the way it was done. We don't have to go to the stores and suffer like now. All this, buy me, I buy you. I don't like it, I take it back, this and that. We enjoyed the holiday itself rather than the gifts,
Yeah.
rather than all this. It was the personal thing. You spend your time with your family
Yeah.
rather than stress out that if you don't have any money, you can't go out and buy any. You made those and you get together. You invite the family and get together and stuff like that.
Let's see. It says, thank you and your guests so very much. I have a store across the street from me. At a certain time of the day, they take their mats and go in the back and pray every day. They have 5 times a day, right? Some of them.
You know
And
what?
she is right too. They put all their finances in names of other family members so they don't have to pay anything here. Yeah.
And those, the ones that they go back and they pray and all this, they're phony. They're just phony. I had a Muslim friend that who I adored and loved here in this country. She never wore the hijab, nothing. And then she was out with short sleeves, everything, hair showing. And my husband saw her hair a million times. All of a sudden, she comes a few years ago wearing the hijab, wearing the long pants, but yet she wears those pants are tight where you could see every little thing of her body. And
So
she
it
prays.
wasn't modesty.
No.
She was covered, but
Yeah.
skin tight, showing.
And now she's praying 5 times a day. I looked at her and I said, "Hey, what happened to you?" She says, "Oh well, I just God told me I have to do that. I have to just keep up with everybody else. Everybody else is doing this. So where is the religion?"
I noticed the
They
people
go out
with
and they
hijab,
lie and they
and yet
cheat.
very well made up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I mean well made up, expensive makeup,
And the
expensive
cigarettes
creams.
and all that. That was not.
Oh yeah, with this.
Now the hookah, all these women. We got invited a few weeks ago to a friend of ours who is also a Muslim who we loved and stuff. And so we went over
A
there.
hookah, is that a thing that you smoke?
Yeah, it's kind of like a water pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were
And do
invited
people
over
get
there.
high with that?
Yeah. And we were there in his restaurant, and all the women came with their hookahs. I had to
You
get
mean you
up
bring
and
your
leave.
hookah? You take
Yes,
your hookah to the restaurant
restaurant.
with you?
Yeah, they took it. They all brought it. This is against their religion. So how could they do that? And I started getting high from smelling it. So I said to my husband, "Let's get the heck out of here." We got up and left. I called him the other day and I said, "Please do not invite me to your place if you're going to have people like this. Only when we and my husband and I and your family, we spend it together."
Yeah.
That's it. I want real people, not phony people. This is all phony. Stop that. And they're all on welfare. They can afford to smoke the hookah, and you should see the dresses that they're all this stuff, and yet they're all on welfare. It's just sad, really sad.
It says, if she were over there, she would be beheaded.
Well,
When their
oh,
time
me?
is up,
Yes.
they put other family members' name in the, yeah.
That's why I'm not showing my face, and I'm not giving my name.
Okay.
But I want to get it out and let the people know. And I really mean it deep down from my heart. This is the way it is. I love people. You know me, Barbara.
Yeah.
Right now, like every year, my husband and I adopt 2 kids so we can give them gifts for Christmas and stuff like this because we know they are in need, even in Mexico, And I just went shopping the other day for those kids because it gives me pleasure to do things,
I'm sure it does.
And I wouldn't do anything in the world for you. It's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for you when you need me. So I'm a good person. I'm not saying what I'm saying because I want to crucify anybody. No, because it's what I'm going through, and it really hurts me. It really, really bothers me and hurts me. And like I said, my brother is a citizen, and he had those 2 kids he wants to bring here. He's stuck over there right now. He can't take them to Jordan. Jordan's not letting Syrian people to go. We asked, we sent letters several months ago asking him to please move their papers to Lebanon so he can go there a little safer. To this day, we never heard from him. But yet they want to bring all these refugees here just like that.
Yeah.
And he's educated. He has money here. He has, relative. He can stay.
He's a teacher.
Yeah, he's a teacher. He's actually was a principal of the school.
And he's a historian, I believe.
Exactly. He's a historian. Yes. Very well educated to the point that the president asked him to be a consulate for one of the countries.
Now, you were telling me that years ago, one of your family members was vice president of Syria?
My mother's cousin, before we were even born, I think we were still, I think my mother was just married to my dad. He was the president of Syria. And another cousin in our days, he was the third man in Syria, in the country. So my mother's family is very well known, very educated. One of her cousins in Lebanon a few years back also was a senator. He donated his own house, huge big castle. He had money, and didn't have money because he was in the government. It was his own, he worked for. He donated it to the government to have a university in that house. He gave it to the government instead of his family and his kids. And to this day, it's known over there who he is, whose, house was that. So, I mean, we came from a good family, not just rubbish or, we're all educated. All my cousins are doctors, the lawyers. Right now, in the Middle East, I have a cousin she is big in a government also.
And are they safe? Are they okay? Are they in danger?
Nobody is safe. Yes, they're in danger every day. Every day. The only thing, like with
now,
my brother,
would they be safer if they converted to Muslim?
Of course. But thank God so far, in the area where they are, in this town, there's still the Muslim and the Christian are pulling together. They're pulling together.
Okay.
Because they've lived with each other for a long time. They know each other real well. It's a small town, and that's what's saving that town. And the president has got enough army in there to keep them all under control and to keep them safe so far. But I have lost several cousins already to the war, several. And a lot of them they just donated their time and their life to try to stop all these ISIS from spreading more and more, and they lost their life. There's not a day that comes unless I hear something bad from over there that I break down and cry. But
I know.
what am I going to do? And I just hope for the best. Yeah. And I hope it's going to simmer down to the point that I can go back and visit again and see all my cousins.
I wish you could. Because they can't come here, and you can't meet in a neutral place.
No.
And
they can't leave. They don't want to go anywhere because it's not safe.
Yeah.
It's not safe.
Yeah. Is that one of my birds?
Yeah.
They're crazy. They're laying. The lovebirds are laying eggs again for the third time in like 6 months or something.
They want to be part of the conversation.
I woke up yesterday morning and there was an egg over there in their nest, and she's not sitting on it yet. So when she does hatch, she'll probably have two. Who knows? Well, let me check my notes here. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes.
I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. Got a little something.
I think they have.
Yeah. Got a little something out of it, and it's a little wake-up call. Wake-up call for all of us.
And you have a better feeling for different kinds of Muslims. Like, I had no idea there were 5 different kinds of Muslims. It makes sense. We've got that many different kinds of Christians.
Yeah. But there's good people in everything, in every religion, whether you're Jewish, you're Buddhist. I've known Buddhists from Korea, from Vietnam, from the best people in the world.
Al-Qaeda and ISIS and ISIL and I guess it's the affiliation. And I guess these people hide who they really are.
Yeah. Those people I don't think they have religion. I don't know. I don't think any religion allows people to go and kill and chop people's heads on television. What kind of a people are these people?
But if Muhammad was doing it.
Yes, exactly.
If he was doing it.
And I always, when I have a conversation with the people that I know Muslim, I bring that up. And they can't argue that with me because it is in the history. It's in the history. So how can you follow a religion like that? How? And there's pictures. There's pictures in the history book. I wish I could have brought it with me here. I wish I had it. There's pictures in there showing Muhammad with his sword on the horse. with all his followers.
Let's see. You're not live. Okay. Okay. Larry, do you, Larry or Granny, do you have something on your screen? You have a black screen? Is Sissy the only one? I need somebody besides Sissy to tell me if you can hear and see. Okay. Okay, I have to go off for a minute and come back. It's the only way, some of them can't see it. It's the only time I can, is to.
What's he talking about? That's cute.
Okay, everybody, how are we doing? Can you hear and see now? Okay, Sissy can see me, Granny can see me, Larry can see me, okay. All right, we're fine. Okay. Thank you for responding the way you did. And Praise can see me. Okay, we're fine. All right. Well, it's about time to close. I want to thank my guest. This was a strange thing, huh?
Yeah.
You've never done this before.
No.
Well, I want you to come back.
Yeah.
And maybe.
It was my pleasure, and I'm glad that we can put the word out so people can get a little picture of what goes on in this world, whether it's whatever we are.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't been out of the USA, and if they have, it's been like as a tourist. And I don't know whether you all realize it, but when you go to a country, you go to the places they allow you to go.
I've been all over
And
the world.
especially if it's a country that has, oh, they're off again. Okay.
I've been all over the world. I've seen different religions, met many people.
I would go off on that other thing, but it's too close to the end for that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's time for me to, just about time for me to close. If I want to close out properly.
Yeah. 2 hours, we didn't even feel it. It went fast.
Hang on just a minute. I wanted to hear her pastor what she was saying. Now you can see me, Sissy can see me, Praise can, Larry can, Granny can. Okay. All right, and the rest. Okay, that's fine. Now wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, it's time for us to go. I have a really early tomorrow appointment, and I have some paperwork and some things I have to do tonight to get ready to go. And I got to make sure that I get that I find people that can wake me up. It's time to get out of here. I am feeling a lot better than I was feeling last week, and I felt pretty good all day. So they're saying, let's see, being sincere in what you were saying. Thank you and your guest very much for her time and answering my questions. This is a lady from she lives on the East Coast.
Well, thank you for listening and hearing what we have to say.
Yeah.
Appreciate that too.
And we have some people from Kansas, and Larry is in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
We don't have anybody from out of the country right
and
now.
My husband is from.
They're saying maybe you can come back again. Yeah.
I would love to.
You know, I think maybe what we can do next time is that we can get our questions together before she gets here. But you have to try something, and I especially want a reputation for being good to the people that I interview. I don't want to make anybody feel unhappy or uncomfortable. So I'm going to close I enjoyed it. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
everybody.
My pleasure.
And let's see, kudos to her and to you.
Thank you.
She says thank you. Okay, well, it was interesting.
They can ask them if they can look at those Malula and the Aleppo, and then later on let you know when you go back on what they saw and what they think.
Yeah, I will. The Malula and the St. George.
Aleppo, St. George.
I will get these things. In fact, we might do that right now. And I'm going to hang on just a moment. I want to close my video. It's been going almost 2 hours. And until the next video, blessings on you.